Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Cultivating an Entrepreneurial Mindset of Success. My name is Meshell Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the NASDAQ Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. We always love to connect. And second, we are going to be sprinkling live Q&A in throughout the presentation. So please, throughout the conversation. So please submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, VPM, and HubSpot for Startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls just to see how everyone is doing today. So this one's going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? And I'll give it a few moments for everyone to submit a response here. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Michigan, Texas, Vietnam, Nevada, New York, Atlanta, Iran, UAE, Pennsylvania. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Awesome. I'm going to stop this poll and share these results. Awesome. Looks like optimism is in the lead. We always love to see that, but we definitely have some feelings of fear, anxiety, and surviving in the room. I am super confident our conversation today will help with some of those feelings. So I'm going to stop sharing this poll and launch the second poll. What is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And I'll give this one another few moments for everyone to participate. Awesome. Texas, DC, Antigua and Barbuda, Hawaii, Ohio, Italy, Jamaica. Welcome, welcome, and everyone. St. Lucia, West Indies. That's awesome to see you all here. Thank you all for joining in. I'm going to end this poll and share these results now. Awesome. All right. It looks like finance is in the lead. Sales and marketing coming up behind, but all across the board. So we will take this into account as we continue to develop programming for all of you. I am going to stop sharing this poll. And without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Meshell Baker, owner and founder of Meshell Baker Enterprises. Meshell, it is so wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Where are my controls? There we go. Hello, everyone. So good to be here, Meshell.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right in.
Lucia, Jamaica. Oh, see, I'm in Texas and we're in heat, but it's not the kind of lovely heat that you guys are probably experiencing.
I know it's like 90s in San Diego, but I know it's much worse in other parts of the country. So I'm counting my blessings.
Honolulu, Antigua, Barbados. I think like you asked me about vacation, so I feel like there's an ominous of a necessary vacation on the horizon.
I love it. Awesome. Well, let's jump right in. So I wanted to start by talking about, just that self-doubt, limiting beliefs, that inner critic that, we can all experience at some point in the entrepreneurial journey. So could you maybe start by sharing any personal experiences from your business journey when, you felt overwhelmed by your inner critic, and kind of tell us about what those experiences were like, and why did that inner critic, and how did it make it so difficult for you to lead your business effectively?
Question. So let me start by saying, I'm my moniker is the Chief Confidence Igniter. I started my business in my 40s. It was after stepping away from 20 years of sales in corporate. So I went from selling Yellow Pages advertising, which is this book that they used to have where people
Right.
right. It's like I don't remember the last time I saw one. I did pharmaceuticals, then I did medical devices covering cases in the OR. I went into biotech, got my MBA, became a comptroller for one of our manufacturing plants in Austin, Texas. Realized that I don't like buildings, like staying in a building all day, right?
Right.
So back out into executive sales for one of our smaller divisions. And I had a 10-state territory. I was an executive biotech sales rep before I left to actually be the live-in aid and caregiver for my sister. So what I found and what I discovered was when I left all of that experience where I was absolutely amazing, right? I had a 20-year career, of which 15 I never looked for another job. I literally was so established and did so well where I was that my former managers and colleagues, as they advanced in their career and there were opportunities, they reached out to me because they got these signing bonuses back then, right? If you bring somebody amazing in, you got a bonus. So, and they knew that I wouldn't let them down. So I really went 15 straight years of just being referred to the next best opportunity. So what I lost when I stepped out of that corporate, when I went into Entrepreneurial, was I stopped listening and trusting myself. I started thinking somebody else knew more than me, even though I had a vision, right? I left because I had a clear vision. That's what I wanted to do. I was struck by lightning in a networking meeting, a women's networking meeting, after I had left corporate to step in for my sister. Within a month, the woman talked about vision versus goals. And I realized I had been living my life goals. I've been achieving and attaining and getting stuff. I had all these titles, I had status, I made money. My compensation was like close to $250,000 a year. Was not satisfied. And what I realized was the vision of who I wanted to become and the legacy of what I wanted to create became relevant and important to me. But even in that, I still thought somebody else knew more than me, because they had all these people at these networking groups who would get on stage and tell you how they did it. And you got to do it their way. And this is the way. And everybody has a way. And everybody wants to say what you need to do, what you ought to do, what you should do. And it became overwhelming. And before I knew it, I wasn't even trusting myself.
Mhm. Ah, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs in our audience can relate to, as first-time business owners, we have some in the audience, and just really trying to navigate that environment among a group of entrepreneurs, or a community of entrepreneurs who oftentimes are very confident in their mission and their vision, and to kind of, feel that same way about your own work that you're doing is a long journey.
Yes. Yes. And so, yeah. And so why this conversation is happening today, the entrepreneurial mindset of success, is at its core believing in what you set out to do. So you're creating something, even if you buy a franchise, right? Even if you buy into an existing business, you are still creating something that doesn't exist. So your belief in what you're creating is what helps you to build it. Without your belief, it will stutter, it will sputter, it will go up when you get money, down when you don't have money, right? Your belief is the building block for everything you want to do in your business. So investing in your mindset is what all successful people do. When you go look at someone in your industry that you've looked up to or you hold in high esteem, go listen to their story about where they were when they were where you are now.
Mhm.
Well, listen to that part of their journey, and they're going to tell you about the doubt they had and the fears and the mistakes they made. And they will also tell you about how they were unrelenting in their belief that they could create whatever it is they created.
Mhm. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Like, really just taking advantage of those people within your network who you can learn from. That's so important.
Yeah.
So what can entrepreneurs do to identify their limiting beliefs, and kind of reframe them, going forward, so that they're not kind of holding them back, in the same ways?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give a shameless plug for the training that I'm giving you guys. It's free, right? So we're going to go into detail on that, but I'll give you a snippet here. A limiting belief is just basically something that you can't see. It's like a blind spot. Yet, there's some weird reason why you're not doing what you need to do. Like you're not doing the cold calls, or you're not doing the follow-up, or somebody gives you an opportunity and you call them and they ask you for something that doesn't currently exist. And you have this great conversation about possibility, but then you don't call them back, right?
Right.
So what happens is there's a belief, right? Because all behavior is based on belief. All emotion is based on belief. We
Mhm.
think it's what we feel, but your feelings are tied to something you believe about yourself, right? Be it positive or negative. So the quickest way to ascertain what you believe is to look at when you take action and when you don't take action. Like you'll start to see, and as you start to get still and start to observe yourself, right? I tell people, as older sibling of a disabled sibling who, right, I was basically ignored, right? All the focus went
Yeah.
on the sibling, and I was given a lot of responsibility at an early age, which I told my parents grew me to be a caregiver, codependent, right? So my propensity to say yes to stuff to help other people used to be very high.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it, right? Because that was the conditioning. It was a belief that I didn't even know why I was operating in. It was just a feeling that triggered me to want to help somebody,
Right.
right? Because that was how I did as a kid, because you would get acknowledged. That was the only time I got acknowledged as a child, is when I was helping the adults with stuff,
Right.
right? Cleaning up, doing the extra things, and they'd applaud me. So that is what an limiting belief is usually stemmed in. It's stemmed in a incident, generally in early development, and you don't even know why you're doing what you're doing. So sitting back and starting to track when you don't, what are you feeling? What is it happening in your body? And just listen to yourself. You'll be amazed. And sometimes it takes formal training or coaching or whatever, but understanding what's triggering you to not do what you want to do and that's the limiting belief. It limits you from doing and living at your full capacity.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so powerful. And I know I've definitely had those moments where I'm kind of like, okay, I know I need to call this person back. There's a really great opportunity. And then, for me, I'm like worried, like, oh, maybe they there's always somebody better out there that they'd want to work with. So I like just make that assumption in my brain, and then the narrative is
Yep.
there, and it feels like reality. So the brain works quick in that sense.
Works faster than you can even imagine. Like the speed at which it works is just unfathomable. So that's why beliefs, right? I tell people, if you have not sat down and created a vision for who you want to be, what you want to have, why you're creating it, you are living by the vision, that the belief system that was encoded in you, and your personality is locked in by the time you were 7 or 8 years old. So you are operating from a set of beliefs that are probably counter to what you want to create, and they keep stopping you. That's what a limiting belief is. You keep trying to move past something and you don't know why, because
Mhm.
you haven't decided who you'll become and go about the business of becoming him or her.
Mhm.
Parents
Yep.
didn't go where you're going, so that belief system they gave you can't take you to where you want to go.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You
So you kind of
go
have to
map,
like forge a new
map and
path.
date it.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to forge a new path for yourself. It's
Yes.
tough.
Yes,
Um,
every successful person has created a new belief system.
mhm,
Every successful person has created a new belief system for who they became.
mhm.
And they did it before they became the person. You don't create it once you get there. If
Right.
it's too late, you'll sabotage. What do you think? You're going to magically become somebody valuable and wonderful once you get money? No, if you're an a-hole when you get the money, you'll be an a-hole once you got it, on the way to
Right.
getting it. Develop your character on the path, because you're creating the habit of who you're becoming when you develop. And
Mhm,
that's why it takes sitting down and not just saying what you want, saying why you want it and who you become in the process.
mhm. I love it. So I want to talk more, dive into this, vision and mission a little bit. We had an interesting question from the audience, though, that I just quickly wanted to touch on. And it's kind of related to, in those early stages, like, what can entrepreneurs do to like validate their idea for a product or service? Not only in like the technical sense, but in to themselves, like validate to themselves that this is something that's worth investing their time and money in, like a business in.
Yeah. So when you say validate, are you looking for to get funded in it? Is that the goal? Or when you're saying validators, they have an idea and they're wanting to take the next steps to actually initiate the creation of it?
Yeah, it seems more like the second, like this is somebody who's trying to initiate the creation of the idea itself, kind of trying to build the confidence
Yeah.
to, you know, make it happen, actually actualize it.
Yes, well, this is where like the training, like the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, one of it is getting into, I find, masterminds and collectives and incubators and groups of people who have done or doing what you want to do. So looking for places where the conversation is more around inquiry, not I call it inquiry versus and just telling you. So there's spaces where you go and you tell people like, oh, this is what I want to create, and they go, oh, you know what you ought to do, that it's not helpful. What you want are spaces is when someone hears the idea, they go, oh my God, that's amazing, tell me more. Oh, what have you already done? Oh, so what does this look like? They help you formulate and expand the idea. So you're
Mhm.
looking for more creatives, more people who are innovative, more people who are not invested in trying to take it or make it something for you. They want to help you develop your own mind around it. And those are not easy to locate. It takes asking questions. It takes visiting places. I always say, when someone invites me to join something or participate, I'm like, is there an option to be a guest for a couple of times?
Mhm.
So, and then your accountability to seek people out. So I literally have people all over my calendar who are weekly or bi-weekly, because I've learned as an entrepreneur, I require accountability, right? That we have this fallacy that you think as an adult, you can do it by yourself. Nah, don't work like that.
Yeah.
You really need conversations that inspire, ignite, and people to remind you that this is what you said. Like, if I get an opportunity and I'm questioning it, because we all have doubt, it's our nature, right? I'll have people on my corner I'll reach out to and say, can I jump on a quick call? And we'll just walk through the process. They don't tell me anything. So they were like, so what did that person say? Or let's go back. What's your vision? Okay, talk about vision. Now, how does this conversation or how does this opportunity part of that? How is this going to help you? And I literally will answer the question myself. I'm like, that 15-minute call, it doesn't take long.
Right.
So for that, it's having a mentor. If you're just starting out, look for mentors, look for wise counsel, reach out to people. The other thing is in the listening. So your mind is a sieve. It takes in everything. So I always tell people, how much time do you invest in listening, reading, and watching things that inspire you? Podcasts of other people in other industries similar to yours are powerful. Podcasts about entrepreneurs who struggled early on but succeeded anyway, because your mind doesn't have emotions. The chatter, the chick or the dude in your head who's listening to me right now and reminding you got to make a phone call, you didn't send an email, or I've heard what she said before. There's a chatter happening in your head right now. It does 90% of the work and it doesn't have emotions. It just takes instruction. So when you instruct it that you are capable in the listening and the intaking, it will start to feed you back the belief in your ideas. So you will look to get validated as needed, right? Looking for external validation is different from if you're internally believing you can create this and you're going to go about it regardless. And there's enough people who created stuff on our planet, books that you can read. You can go listen to their snippets on YouTube that will tell you that no one believed in them and they did it anyway. So that's what you're looking for to start with. Do you believe?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that, kind of just like searching for that inspiration and, really focusing on that internal validation. I think that's so great. So I want to dive now into, vision and mission. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs who are struggling to clearly define their vision and mission? And how might you suggest they ensure that their actions as a business leader are then aligned with that vision and mission?
Well, that is so people generally struggle with vision or mission is because they are not clear on who they are first. Right. So, and then your why are you doing what you're doing? They know what they want. They might want money, or they might want to create software. They might want to create an application, or they might want to, be a millionaire. So they know what, right? What is not believe it or not, what you want is not enough driving factor to keep you going. You know how you know that? Listen to all the people talk about what they want to do, what they ought to, need to, have to, should be doing. Right? Most of the population. What will keep you going when it's hard, when it's dark, when you fail? Because you are going to fail. I want you to understand this. Failure is requisite of success. You cannot have success without failures, mistakes, setbacks. It's the why and the who. So when you understand why, when your reasons become more compelling than your results, you will always get the results. The reverse is not true. You will find the results. You will create the results. You'll make that last call. You will, you'll figure there's a book called Everything is Figure Outable, right? And you will actually remember that you know more than you think you know. I always tell people, when your reasons are compelling, your mind begins to work on your behalf. You know more than you think you know. The only reason you don't access it is when you go into fear mode. right? When you forget FEAR, forget everything and run, the blood goes from your head down into your body. It goes into your lower extremities. Your heart's racing, your armpits are itchy, your palms are sweaty, your eyes are like you're clenched. You're like this. So all you can think about is the one problem, the one thing you didn't get, the one thing that didn't go wrong, the one thing that the person said to you, how they treated you. You're focused on one, right? When you are actually in that belief, your mind becomes expansive and you all of a sudden remember, and you have these ahas and these revelations and these epiphanies. I call them, you remember who you are, ARE, ahas, revelations, and epiphanies. You start to remember all these things like, oh my God, I know somebody. Oh my God, I remember an article. And you get excited all of a sudden, and all this energy flows back into the why. And we don't spend enough time. And this is why we're doing the mindset. The work that it takes to create that level of mindset is every day. It is, you must become non-negotiable in feeding your mind the possibility of what you're creating, so your mind feeds you back. So in the moments of being dealt something that wasn't favorable, or being told no, or being let down, instead of you telling the story of how unfair it is, you're just like, next. I heard something recently that just I've been sharing with people. If I told you it would take you 19 no's to get the funding, 19 no's to get the ideal client, 19 no's to get the loan, 19 no's to get to the yes that you're dreaming of, that would change your life and your business, you would run to hear the 19 no's. If I told you it took you 19th and on the 20th day, you'd be absolute less, and it would just pour out. The challenge is you don't know how many no's it's going to take. When you start embracing every no, that the yes is the next one, and then the next one and next one, it starts to wear off. You don't care. And that's the life of an entrepreneur, understanding that you don't know how many no's or let downs or setbacks or failures it's going to take. You just have a vision, and that's all there is.
So I think that's really interesting, because I think it can be really easy to focus on those setbacks. And I think it's, we're trying to protect ourselves and, trying to, examine the setback, you kind of are like, okay, now I have more information so that this doesn't happen in the future. And in doing so, you sometimes forget to like recognize those wins and those moments where you have an opportunity. You just need to take that step to take advantage of it.
And trying to create the scenario where it doesn't happen in the future, and all you know is right now. You don't know what the future holds. Yes, I would just tell people, just be prepared for whatever, and anticipate the best. Just always anticipate that everything that is happening to you is going to work in your favor. How many have you heard people, this is what I'm saying, listening to Overcomer and stories of winning despite failure? How many times have you heard people tell the story that they got told no, and instead of just being disappointed, they kept going, and the next thing was exceeded their expectations, blew their minds, set them up for success? How glad they were the thing that they thought they wanted was a no. Right? We cling to this belief that it has to be a certain way. Stop letting go of the way. Just know the vision and allow the vision to form the way it's meant to form in your best interest.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into setbacks. Oftentimes that's what can trigger that inner critic to come out. So what can entrepreneurs do? What steps can they take in their day-to-day lives as business leaders to learn from those experiences and turn those tough moments into opportunities for growth?
Somebody said repeat R again. It's ahas, revelations, and epiphanies. You'll remember who you are. And once you remember who you are, you'll remember you're limitless. I want you to understand, and I'll answer that question. Everything you've ever experienced in your life is warehouse and storehouse in your unconscious. Us right now having this conversation, y'all listening, me and Meshell talking, is only 10% of the capacity of our mind. The other 90% is dormant. and it has no emotion. It holds it all and it waits to give it to you. It only gives it to you when you're in belief. You don't get it when you're in fear, doubt, second guessing, imposter syndrome, when you're in jealousy, anger, all the negative. When you're staying in that abundant, joyful, grateful, affirming mindset, that's when you remember all these things. Think about it in your life. You remember all these amazing things when you're having a good time.
Yeah.
Right? Your mind wants to work on your behalf so you can be halfing.
Mm-hmm.
Lit it. And so back to what you're saying, how do you cultivate this? Is you must become non-negotiable about your, I told the quickest way to create and generate it is to establish a morning routine that's non-negotiable. Clients, when I do my group coaching with my women, all of them are required to do 15 minutes every morning. Otherwise, you got to go. You got about 3 weeks, 4 weeks at most to establish it, then I cut you loose. Because what I commit to is that you become unstoppable. You become unwavering and unreasonable in what your ability to create the impossible. And the only way I can do that is I have to get you locked in on who you are, your limitless capability. And the only way that's going to happen is you spending time with you. 15 minutes in the morning is less than 0.01% of your day. And what I tell people is you're not willing to give yourself 15 minutes, you don't want what you say you want. If you're not willing to commit to yourself, and I don't say like most people are like trying to meditate for an hour. 15 minutes, do a 5-minute meditation, do some affirmations, do some gratitude, do 5 minutes of exercising, do some push-ups and some sit-ups and do some affirmation. There's a combination of things you can do. The goal is create your own 15-minute recipe and then do it till you can't do it anymore. You'll know when you can't do it anymore because all of a sudden you want to expand it. 2 hours a day, and I started with 15 minutes. It took me 3.5 years to figure that out. I was hanging around people who were like, I've been meditating for 8 years, 3 months, and 62 days. So be like, I've been meditating for 3,900 days, as it says. I'm like, what? And I kept thinking, what is wrong with me? I can't make it. I can barely get into double digits before I crash.
Right.
And what I realized is I finally asked God, universe, divine, Buddha, Allah, the source, right? Higher power. What do I, and he just said, just start small. And I'm like, okay, 15 minutes. That was my number. And I did the math and I'm like, yeah, 0.1. And that's what I made 15 minutes, my non-negotiable. And once it got locked in, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I want more. I'm like, right. What if I did 20? What if I did 30? Right. And that's when the results, it's the consistency. Your mind is like compound interest in banking. What happens if you invest $1 every day versus if you put $1 in the bank at the end of $365 in the bank at the end of the year? Totally. Huge difference. Your mind is exactly the same way. That's what keeps the critic dormant. And that's what, once you keep doing it over time, the thing is, it's the time. You guys are what, 30, 40, however years you are. Stop looking for immediate results in your mind. You had all those decades and years of not talking nice to yourself, of letting the critic run the show. The critic is not magically going to go away. What makes the critic go away is when you become consistent in your patience and your persistence daily to feed yourself something positive. And then when you'll wake up one day and you'll realize, oh my God, I talked myself into something. And then you'll look up in a month later, and you're like, oh my God, I talked to myself all day. It's the consistency, right? I tell people, consistent persistence wears out resistance 100% of the time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I think I actually, I read somewhere that like, I think it takes like at least 20 times of doing a habit to like make it become something that is like a natural habit to you. So that, can take some time for something to like really like feel natural. And sometimes you got to try a few different things and figure out what works for you. But I love just that emphasis on taking that small amount of time and then just investing in yourself, and the results that can really come from just that small investment.
Like I've had clients who've had young ones and working, and like household was in upheaval. I said, for that client, I told her 5 minutes because that's all she could do. right? And she did the 5 minutes, but now she went from, going through a divorce with a husband who wasn't helping out financially or anything, to turning her volunteer work into her ideal job, and then getting promoted, 3 times in 5 years. Now she came back and worked with me again and started her own company. So when she met me, all of this felt impossible, all of it. But what did she have to do? It was required that she set a daily morning routine. And now she's a beast. She teaches other people how to do it, right? And I love it, because that's the impact we make in the world. The more time we have, this ripple effect, your business, you get to impact. Like I tell people, even if you don't buy from me, you're still going to be better off for having a conversation with Meshell. Everybody who talks to Meshell is better off. It's not about the clients and what you're creating. It's about who you become. You get to do an amazing thing in the world, and you get to do it through your business. Right? If they buy or they don't buy, because you never know. I get referrals for speaking for people who never bought anything from me.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Really, like, it's like really about like building that network up, and you don't know when those opportunities can come up. I think that's great. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into confidence. How would you define confidence, and how can a confident mindset contribute to business success?
Yes, great question. So, interesting thing about confidence. Confidence is a form, if you look in the thesaurus, it's another word for belief. So you can be confident something's not going to work. Like, we have this misnomer thinking confidence is positive. Confidence is just belief, right? And most people are believing in what's not going to work. And you know how I know that? Because they talk about and they complain. So whatever you talk about, you bring about. Whatever you utter becomes your outer, right? So people who are succeeding are talking about what they want to create. They will shut it down. Like, when something doesn't go, they don't sit there and complain and whine. If they do vent, they have specific people, coaches, whatever. They have that conversation, they debrief, they look at what didn't work, and they move on. People who struggle actually keep talking about the struggle. They voice their life as being hard, because we have this really backwards way of communicating in life, that if you're not talking about the struggle, you're not working hard. Right? If you're not talking about how hard it is, you're not putting in the work. Whereas with the reality is that whatever you're speaking about, you're creating. Your words create, right? When you think it, it's not real. So that's why I have so much accountability in my life, is so that I get to speak my creation repeatedly every day, every week, right? I have somebody on my calendar every day that I speak to about what I'm creating, because my family, I love them dearly, but they come from old school thoughts of complaining. So I can't necessarily, talk to them about certain things, right? So with creating that space. Did I answer your question? Sometimes I drift, I get excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think definitely, like, create, like, when entrepreneurs kind of can find an environment, or a community in which they feel comfortable kind of expressing themselves more openly, like, that will help to build that mindset of confidence.
Yes. So confidence is just confidence is basically what you're constantly communicating. What you're confident about. So, like, generally when I ask people what they want, they'll tell me, well, I really want to succeed, but, and then they go into a landslide, a slew. Like, if they talk for 20 minutes, it's 2 minutes about what they want and 18 minutes about what they don't want. And what they just did was create.
Right.
Don't want. I always tell people, the brokest people on the planet don't want to be broke. The fattest people on the planet don't want to be fat. And the single people don't want to be single. Because the unconscious mind, the 90% only takes command, and it does not comprehend or translate the word not. It just gives command. So when you say, I don't want something, your mind says, I want something. I don't want to fail. I want fail. I don't want to struggle. I want struggle. It literally takes out the not.
Yeah.
This is a researchable known fact that is not talked about enough.
Wow, that's super interesting.
Stop doing that. It's like telling someone, don't hit the tree. What do they do?
Hit the tree. Yeah.
Right. Our mind just is the command.
Right. Yeah. That's, It's very, very similar actually to how toddlers can often, don't do this, and then they go and do it, and they're looking at you, see,
Yeah.
they're testing to see if you're watching them, and that's really, really interesting. So how might entrepreneurs strike a balance then between being confident and being humble? Because I think that can be something that entrepreneurs worry about, is like overconfidence in their conversations with potential clients or partners or whoever. So what can they do to remain open to learning and growth while still projecting a strong sense of confidence?
Yeah, and I love that people actually worry about being humble, right? And what I tell people is confidence is actually a value.
Mm-hmm.
So just like being kind or being thoughtful or being nice or loving, confident is similar in that it's a value. So when something is valuable, it actually attaches to other people. The way and when you are leaving other people feeling more confident for having been around you, you don't have to worry about being humble. I'm not humble. I
Right.
tell people all the time, why you should hire me as a speaker? Because I'm like, I'm going to rock your stage. You don't
Right.
me go look at my over 100, because I was on a mission to get over 100 LinkedIn testimonials, right? I can give you a dozen people to call right now in the recent year who will give them accolades, and I have written testimonials and video testimonials. I'm a beast with a mic in my hand. That's
Yeah.
not humble, but it's because I know that I'm talking about something that I'm going fully capable of delivering, and it's going to leave people better off. The person who hired me, the people in the audience, right? Everybody's going to be better off because that's what I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I tell when don't worry about it, just give it away. Ensure that when you're confident, other people feel confident. They feel better and more confident for having been in your presence. That's when you don't have to worry and be like you're not being cocky. When you're cocky, it's all about you. But when it's truly valued, it's given away freely and unabashedly, and you can't even stop it. Like I don't know how to not to light people up anymore. I practiced it so long.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's really important. And, like just talking with entrepreneurs, like, who are working on all different projects, you can really, really, see that kind of energy in some of those conversations, where that's just something that's like, they're so, they know like the back of their hand, and it's like, they're not even necessarily reciting a script of, oh, this is kind of like my prepared communication strategy. It's like, no, this is just like part of who I am in a way. So it just flows much more naturally, at that point. I think that's super important.
Yes, yes. And that goes to like when people are thinking about the vision and the mission. Well, it goes to as you're creating your vision, is your vision to make profits? Is your vision to help people thrive and build leaders? Is your vision to in mission to impact the planet? So whatever that is, then that's what you discuss and you have conversations. So when I'm talking to my team, my goal, my vision is always that whoever engages with me feels like they're capable of the next step. So I ignite confidence. The way I do that is help people get clear on the next step, because then you're confident to move forward. So I
Right.
don't say I ignite clarity, I ignite confidence. And the way I do that is the clarity for your next step. So as long as my team understands that when they're creating things, they can go make as many mistakes as they want, as long as they're not repeated, right? And as long as they can validate with me why they did what they did, then I can tweak it. If you don't know the why, I have nothing to work with. And if you go into inaction, I have nothing to work with. So that's one of the most challenging things to do when you're expanding and building a business and working with vendors, is giving them permission to go ahead and put their own imprint on it and
Mm-hmm.
trust and know that you're not going to get it right. It's taken me years to get someone in one of the roles that I have. I had to kiss a lot of frogs. I tell people as an entrepreneur, you need to get a vat of wart cream and start kissing your frogs. Start kissing them. There's no perfect way for this. And just because they did it in 2 tries doesn't mean that you won't have to do it in 20 or 200. There
Yeah.
is no, your way is what is the way that it's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I love that. So then sticking on that topic of just vision and mission for a moment, what can entrepreneurs do to as time goes on, over the course of their business journey, how can they kind of ensure that their vision and mission remains strong yet adaptable as the market landscape, changes over time?
Yeah, well, this is a great question. I've loved every one of these questions. If you can't tell, I'm just like about to, you know, combust, right? uh, is to invest in yourself. So this is the one of the biggest things that people, it's not an expense. What I've come to realize is I've invested in masterminds and, high performance coaching and things like that, is that the people who are successful and wealthy people, they do what unsuccessful people won't do, and that's invest in themselves. They turn the things that they don't like to do into habits. And you generally can't do that by yourself. That requires outside assistance and guidance, especially if it's something that's been limiting and you've been tripping over a lot, right? One of the things that I learned, and it took me years to figure out, that I was incredibly talented, but my discipline sucked, right? I'm gonna be honest, it was horrible, right?
Yeah.
When I was in sales, I was winging it. Like I could do that. So I took that habit into an entrepreneur. I didn't change magically overnight, right? But then investing and learning that and finding ways to, like the Atomic Habits book, I learned to stack my habits. I learned to reframe some of the activities, but that took outside coaching, that took outside masterminding and having conversations with other people who would say, yeah, I had that similar experience and this is what I tried. And, I don't know if it'll work for you, but this is what I told myself. This is how I looked at it through this lens. Instead of it having to be all this work, I thought about the clients that I get to, that those activities get me to, and the fun and joy of that. So the reframing. So again, this is not an easy journey, and those who are willing to invest in themselves are the ones who win. But you can't create a solution with the same mind that created the problem.
Totally. Absolutely.
Right? It's that insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. Oh, well, this didn't work, so I'm gonna go do this. This didn't work, I'm gonna go do that. Introducing new information from someone who has already succeeded is your shortcut every time. It's the quickest route every single time.
Yeah, I love that. And that just goes back to emphasizing the importance of that community that you're surrounding yourself with as a business leader.
Yep.
So just to finish off here, we've talked a lot about mindset. And I think sometimes entrepreneurs can kind of wonder, like, how can I now turn this confidence? How can I turn these thought exercises now into like actual action for my business? So can you talk about kind of some examples or ways in which like a strong mindset, when combined with strategic action, can lead to exceptional results, and kind of what entrepreneurs can do to make that happen for themselves and their business?
Great question. And I started kind of formulating an answer as I respond to the last one. It's investing in yourself.
Yeah.
So it begins to look at how you're spending your time. So one of the things that many people have never done is track their time. Look at how many distractions you have. Like I said, first thing in the morning, do not touch your phone. If possible, buy an alarm clock and put your phone in another room, because if you're looking at social media, you're going to immediately feel inadequate. If you're looking at your calendar, you're going to go into scarcity and lack of time. And if you're looking at your emails, you're going to go into overwhelm. So and if you're looking at the news, you're going to go into dread and to fear, right? Because all fear mongers, right? So again, that time to I call it to forge your focus, to literally put an outer coating on you. So I've done it so long that I have this saying, I call it, I'm like all day awesome, right? So I create this force field of awesome first thing in the morning, so that when someone enters my space that's not awesome, I'm trying to figure out what's going on with them. Like, I don't take it personal. Like, I just got here. I have invested so much time, so much money in myself. You do not get to dictate my awesome. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what most people are not doing. They're not fortifying their own mind so that in the scope of what you're creating, you'll make better decisions. You'll be quicker to ask questions instead of just leaping into stuff like the FOMO. Oh my God, this is so awesome. And you get overwhelmed and you say yes, and you end up with a bunch of things on your plate that you can't handle. And now you're doing stuff out of obligation instead of out of the joy of why you started your business. You must be able to calibrate and control your emotions. And you cannot do that without mindset work.
Yeah.
You cannot.
Yeah.
You are triggered. We are emotional creatures, right? And
Yeah.
your body only knows the history of your emotions. Every time you respond, most people respond in their feelings and not in their focus or the future.
Right.
Right. And so as an entrepreneur, you want to train your body to respond to the future you're creating, not the initial temporary feeling of overwhelm or rejection or fear or doubt. That's what a successful entrepreneur does. And they do it no matter what happens. They always know that there is always a way. There is nothing that can't be done. Can't is conditioning accepts negative thoughts. Oh my God, what's going to go wrong? Oh my God, I can't believe they did this. Oh my God, this is so unfair. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Then your mind starts to run and it creates and expands on the negativity. When you believe you can, nothing's impossible because your creativity is actively nurtured. You go, hey, I'm not the first person that this has happened to, so I will figure this out. Everything is figure outable.
Right.
So CANT, conditioning accepts negative thoughts. And when you can, your creativity is actively nurtured. And that takes investing in being around people who talk about what they do. So when you're struggling, you feel comfortable to voice your struggle and get feedback from the other people who will support you in creating your outcome. Not telling you what to do. And that's the hard thing to find because there's so many groups where people just want to hit you with a deluge of what you need to, ought to, should do versus asking you, what have you already done? What have you tried? And then offering it. And even if you have something you think will benefit someone, ask it in the form of a question. So instead of saying, you know, what you ought to do is call this person, or what you ought to do is read this book. Have you ever thought about reading a book? Right? Or have you ever thought about looking for ways that you can introduce new information in? One of the ways that I've heard is some people read books. Do you read books regularly? Because what happens is that person now creates it in their mind. When you tell them what to do, it's just one thing. When you ask them a question, it becomes creativity immediately.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. And you know, I love something that you said earlier, kind of about like that, the importance of fortifying your confident mindset. And we have a question coming in from the audience that I think really touches on this, which is, you know, sometimes I think a lot of entrepreneurs can experience the people close to them who are kind of supposed to be that support network, you know, maybe friends or family. And, you know, sometimes that confidence can feel like it's being diminished by those people who are supposed to be there to support you. So what can entrepreneurs do? What kinds of mantras can they tell themselves? What kind of strategies can they employ to kind of, you know, keep the walls of their confident mindset strong in the face of, you know, those who may try to diminish it?
Yeah. And I love that you said mantras because, you know, you can Google powerful mantras and come up with a list. So I'm not going to steer you from that. And I also encourage you to make up your own. One of the ones that my clients generally adopt for me is everything is working in my favor. Because that's how they start to retrain their body's emotions, because they're triggered. We feel an emotion and we think it's going to go wrong because limiting belief that triggered the body. Your body holds the history of your emotions. You must retrain your body. That's what I'm saying. No, anyone who's successful has retrained themselves in how they're responding to external stimuli. Remember, your mentality is your reality. What you think about, you bring about. What you speak about, you write. All of that. So again, as you're saying, one of the other mantra is, my words command the universe. That's what I say to myself, because it doesn't become real until I speak it. So I speak I think about what I'm speaking and what I'm bringing about and how I'm saying what I'm saying, right? If I'm saying what I don't want, I'm commanding the universe to bring more things in that I don't want.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And like, I guess that kind of just goes back to, thinking about the way that you're kind of wording things when you talk about them. And, it's really sticking in my head, kind of how your brain ignores the not. So it's like really reframing the way that you're thinking about these experiences can really make all the difference.
Yes, right, exactly. And that's how I ended up creating the acronyms for can't and can. Again,
Right.
those quiet times where I'm sitting still, and literally, like, most of my acronyms come to me in my morning meditations.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
something I heard the night before or something I was pondering on how to communicate because I have a presentation coming up, and I'm like, oh, I would love a new acronym, or I love a new way to say this, or a way to say this where it physically impacts people. Like when they hear it, stop and they lean in because they'll remember it, and it'll be something that'll trigger them, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
carry it with them long after having heard me speak. Because my goal is that you guys walk away and that you guys are all triggered, like in the days to come. Like you remember, not because I want you to remember me, because I want you to remember you. I want you to remember who you are and what you're capable of. Again, God, universe, divine, Buddha, Allah, the source, I'm not a religious snob, is infinite, unending, and unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't run out, so neither do we, because that's what's in us, right? And that's what this whole conversation is about you illuminating that gift. People who do amazing things in this world believe they're special, and
Mm-hmm.
that's nothing humble about believing you're special.
Yeah. Awesome. And so I think we have time for one more question. And I wanted to just take this time. We had a few entrepreneurs kind of wondering about, we've talked about setbacks, but I think one thing that we haven't quite touched on is, maybe you've had times where your mindset has not been super strong, and there's a lot of that inner critic coming through, and then maybe you've built up that mindset to be stronger, and then a setback can happen, and you kind of fall out of that more positive mindset. So, what can entrepreneurs do to kind of bounce back from a mindset fallout?
Yes, and let me first, it's a great question, and let me just let you guys know you're going to have them. You will continue to have. There's no magical place where you're going to land where there's going to be fairies, right, and unicorns fart and pixie dust. Not going to happen. There is no place there. So know that everything you're doing is about creating the habit and the standard so that you will face all of this and keep going and keep a positive mindset. And even if you get stuck, that you eventually get up. And what happens is over time, the stuck gets shorter. So if you get stuck and you down for a month, next thing you know, it'll be a couple of weeks. Next thing you know, it'll be a couple of days. Next thing you know, it'll be a couple of hours, right? So that's what you're mastering your mind to get stronger. So the setbacks are shorter, right? The biggest way that I do is that I call people, because when I start to talk about it, remember, you're dead in your head. So you can't think yourself out of the problem, right? You can't think yourself into a solution with the same mind that's having the setback. It won't work. You must find people you know, like, and trust and respect so that you can contact someone and you can talk about it. And now, like I said, not a pity party, but literally someone. And I train my friends. I used to say, oh my God, I'm so glad, sorry that happened. No, don't be sorry. I don't want the negative emotion. All I need you to do is listen and ask me questions.
Right.
Teach them the questions to ask me. There's some of my strongest relationships right now are people, I groom them to be my accountability buddies, right? To literally talk myself through. So what are you going to do now? Or how are you going to handle this? Or what is it like? What are you going to take away from this? Right? And that's what helps you get out of it, because they're going to happen. No one who has incredible success does not have incredible failure.
I love it.
The bigger the success you want, the bigger the failures you're going to experience. When you start anticipating and expecting them and creating in yourself the sense that this too shall pass, and you just keep getting up, you will.
I love it.
Got my email. Reach out to me.
Awesome. Meshell, it has been such a pleasure to have you. If you had just one piece of wisdom from this conversation or something you carry with you that you wanted to leave with the audience, what would that be?
So you talked about the belief, we talked about the imagination. So dream big, BIG, beliefs, imagination, and gratitude. If you truly believe that this is what you're called to do, then everything is working in your favor. There is no good or bad. It just works in your favor. Start saying thank you today for everything and everyone. Abundance loves gratitude. Abundance is not attracted to negativity, complaining, gossiping, pointing fingers, comparing, all of that. Abundance loves gratitude.
Awesome, Meshell. It has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing these insights on behalf of the NASDAQ Center and everyone here today. We are just so thankful you joined us.
Yes. Thank you. This is amazing.
Awesome. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view by using the link that's going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.